went to a couple of other labels. They were in some smaller labels, but some that actually specialized in comedy. Everyone was excited about it. They were in, and we launched, and we raised $10 million. And it's kind of funny. When we were streaming live, and again, there was only 5 or 10% of the country was on broadband at that time. We were streaming more live video than anybody else in the world at that time, if you can imagine. And we hired our comedy jocks were Ken Ober. Ken was a guy who was on MTV for years. Susan Olsen, who was Cindy Brady and the Brady Bunch. We had Beth Lapidus. Gosh, I'm trying to think who all we had. We had a ton of just amazing jocks who understood the comedy business. Carrie Kasem obviously was through there and worked with Carrie. Still,
she has like the number one horse video. And have you seen this? She filmed herself riding a horse down to a beach recently, Kent. It has like millions of views.
I was just on the radio with her a couple of weeks ago.
It's fantastic PR. It's so great. And I'm like, I hosted a show with her 20 years ago, and she still looks 25. Amazing woman.
Well, she's awesome. I'll tell you what, she's one of the smartest, most amazing, she has just a massive heart, but she's brilliant. You know how it is, like Bart, we've seen, where you have like fathers, that make a great name for themselves and their kids are total fuck ups. This is just the opposite. Her dad was Casey Kasem, and Carrie has every bit as much talent and charisma, even more charisma. I don't know. She's one of those amazing ones. And she never rode on her dad's coattail ever. She literally did it on her own, and she's brilliant.
He was Arab. He was he Lebanese? I forget what he was.
Lebanese.
He was Lebanese. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing guy with a golden voice. Yeah. Really, really exceptional guy. So here's a question for you. And I think we're going to be, we've got about 5 minutes before we have to wrap. And I want to get to where you're at now and for you to share a couple success secrets with our audience. But at the end of the day, going from, like you said, you said you were, kind of a country boy, fairly, you didn't have any extensive access to tons of money or great wealth, but you basically
had zero.
You had zero. You built your stuff up.
I had lawn mowing money.
You had lawn mowing money. Okay.
Lawn mowing and pool dance money.
But it sounds like you had grit. You weren't afraid to, go out there and work hard and bust your ass. And it amazes me now when I look at kind of this generation, I don't know what you call them, but like Gen Z and like the younger kids, where they're much more expectant than we were in that generation, Generation X and the generation before that. And they're much more naive.
They're very needy. Well, they're very needy. They've probably been helicoptered by their parents. I have two daughters. I have one that's 31 and very entrepreneurial. I mean, Bart knows her, Ashley. Sharp as a tack, entrepreneurial. You talk about a hustler. I mean, holy smokes, a hustler. I mean, just absolute. But that was the last part of the generation that didn't have cell phones when they were kids. I mean, smartphones when they were kids. So they were out hustling. They weren't sitting around all day, whining about how many, likes they didn't get on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Yeah. So it's a very different thing. And, today's kids are more victim. They're raised not only by the school systems, but by a lot of parents raise them to be more victim mentality people than they do, hustlers and entrepreneurs. I grew up watching my dad, who ran this little tiny, turned out to be the largest bank in south of Springfield, Illinois, but at the time, very, very small bank as they were growing it. But I would watch him call these huge, like CEOs of huge companies and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, Jesus, I thought it was normal. And so I had no fear in calling anybody. So, that's as how I wound up with a lot of these, big relationships that I've got. And many I've had since I was a young business guy, because I just didn't have any fear. I remember one time Lou Wasserman was running, MCA Universal. He was the guy, he was a big guy back then in Hollywood, the guy. And I was selling songs for Lowry Music and managing my acts. And I told Mr. Lowry I needed to go to LA. I was going to meet with Lou. And he said, Lou who? And I said, Lou Wasserman. He goes, what? He said, how do you get a hold of Lou Wasserman? I called him. I said, you were wanting to do this thing with Universal and you had these 3 songs you wanted to pitch. Yeah, I figured I'd call, somebody and find. Anyway, I just happened to get a call through to him, and the assistant let me into him, and I went to see him, and that's how we became friends. So, wow. and Lowry, a music legend, is going, how the hell did you get a meeting there? Like, I just picked up the fucking phone. That's what you do.
On a personal note, I don't know anybody whose phone and Rolodex will get you to the top as much as Kent, which leads me to one final question. Would you tell us about your romance with Phyllis Diller?
You know what? If you see me walking down the street, I will let you guys know all about that one. I will have to tell you about that one.
Oh no.
That was the other 92. No, I'm kidding you.
They've been dear friends forever, and I've jazzed you about this because
so
I've died to meet her.
her.
I wish I could have hung out with her.
Did you never go to her house with us?
No, I feel so bad.
She was the greatest, and she was great. And it was kind of funny when my now 14-year-old was born. She was the first person to come over and bring a gift. It was kind of funny. The first 2 people to stop by, Phyllis Diller with a gift, this beautiful antique old Disney book of a storybook that was really old, and the other one was Rip Taylor, who just lived around from us up in the Hollywood Hills there. And Rip came with his confetti and the whole thing. The baby is here. The baby is here. So that was one of those perks of being in the comedy network business, because you got to meet a lot of those folks, and then they're just wonderful people, and those are the people you saw growing up on television. So that was kind of cool.
Amazing. So tell us what you're doing now and how people can find you.
You bet. So, I've noticed, and Bart will tell you this, one thing, the places we've always done well in media is by identifying niches. And by the way, I'll regress just for a second and go back to satellite radio, Sirius XM. They used to be 2 different services. Now they're one, Sirius XM radio. When I had started the radio networks, I went up to them and met with them individually, because at the time they were different companies. XM was based in DC, Sirius Sirius, before they went on the air, was actually a company called CD Radio. Then they changed the name to Sirius, but went and met with their CEOs. And it took me a month to convince one of them that they needed to put comedy on their service when they launch. And I badgered them both. And finally one said, okay, we'll give you 1 comedy channel. And then the other one said, well, if they're going to do comedy, I guess we will. Comedy wasn't something they were going to do. And it's interesting now that it's become, one of the biggest things on Sirius XM. There's multiple channels, there's 6 or 7, 8 channels on the different services. So those are niche networks. I've always found that if you can find a niche that nobody else is doing, that's where you make the money, and you stay away from the competition. So right now there's a real void of news, like edgy news that you can go anywhere with, not filtered, not watered down by advertisers making demands for, well, you better not talk about this or you better not talk about that. So we're doing a news network called Crave News, 100% digital on all the digital platforms. And absolutely real, raw, unfiltered, and fun. So it's real news. Actually, the tagline is real news, no bullshit. And we'll have a lot of fun doing it. It'll be live, eventually 16 hours a day. People can call in, FaceTime in, news at the top and bottom of the hour, and hot talk all the way around. So it'll be Fox News. If you took like a Fox News and MSNBC, bred it with Barstool Sports, something like that. So something very edgy and fun.
Wow. And you can cancel yourself because you're the CEO.
You know what? This is the no cancel network. You cannot get. Listen, I hung. You know me. I'm a George Carlin, Bob Saget fanatic. I'm that kind of. I'm that kind of humor and that kind of philosophical, ilk. So I would have been canceled years ago.
Well, let's do things a little differently. So to close it out, if you were George Carlin, what would you say? How would you close this interview out as George Carlin?
Oh, I would probably tell some joke that would absolutely get you kicked off the internet. That's probably what I would do.
So Crave News, is it Crave on Facebook, Crave.tv? What's the handle to get a hold of you and subscribe before it actually launches?
Can't subscribe when we launch. We'll let you know. Cravenews.com is the URL, and it's just got a holder site there for right now. And when we get the studios finished here in Nashville, we'll launch, and we'll have some pretty decent fanfare, I think, when we launch, and we'll be announcing our hosts. Some of those hosts you'll know, and a lot of the contributors you guys certainly will know. And it'll be a lot of fun. And it's one of those things too that I would love to have you guys on as regular guests. And because it's not going to be one of those where you have the typical talking heads that you see every single day on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. It's going to be like on our business segments. It's going to be real, like accomplished business people like you guys.
Sure.
It's going to be accomplished business people talking business. In politics, I'm very well politically connected. It'll be, people coming on, governors and senators and congress people and local politicians, and letting their hair down and having fun, which, by the way, they love to do. They don't get an opportunity, though, in a 3-minute soundbite on Fox News or CNN.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that
this will be
sounds
someplace
amazing.
people can talk and have fun. Yeah, it'll be a good time. And it'll be very, the graphics are very beautiful. They're very slick. Bart's seen those graphics. And actually, we were starting to roll some content before COVID hit. We were starting to do some. Bart came on and did a segment on Tiger King that was fantastic. But it'll be very authentic, kind of like Joe Rogan's podcast. Joe's somebody I just love and have known for years. It'll be that authenticity of a podcast, but a news network at the same time.
I love that. And guys, don't forget to check out Bart on season 2 of Tiger King. We don't know how he got on there, but it's wild. He's going to be doing some crazy things. You can check that out at tigerking.com. Bart, if people really want to get a hold of you, how could they find you?
This is the greatest setup ever. Bart Baggett on Instagram, Bart Baggett on Facebook. And if you want a copy of my latest book, just go to getbartsbook.com. Shaheen, you got a mastermind Amazon mastery course that they can sign up for?
Yeah, anybody that wants to learn how to create predictable recurring revenue on the Amazon platform by creating an Amazon company, guys, no better time than now. Amazon companies are going for crazy numbers right now, and there is no better time to get in right now. When the real estate market just starts to get hot and you see people buying in, you're holding off, and it's too late. Don't let it get too late. Reach out to us at fbasellercourse.com. For little or no money, you can start an Amazon company and take advantage of this beautiful thing that our good friend Jeff Bezos has started. And also, I wanted to mention the book just dropped, Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. If you guys are interested in my entrepreneurial journey, about how I created a company, nearly broke $1 billion in revenue pre-internet. Check that out. The first chapter is free on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts are heard. And thank you for everybody watching us on YouTube and Facebook Live. And thank you very much to our absolutely amazing and inspiring guest, Kent. Kent, thank you so much for being on, but hopefully we'll be able to get you on more to learn more about the super exciting stuff that you're doing and to share your entrepreneurial journey with our audience.
Shaheen, it's my pleasure to be here. Bart, great to be here with you also. You guys are amazing, and what you're doing is amazing. And the opportunities you give budding entrepreneurs, I think, is just, we need more of this in America. And I love what you guys are doing.